cause that be natural.
Lady
I ain't
D.
looking tacky. I keep my game tactful.
Yo.
Yeah, I'm so nappy.
M.O.B.
Cause that be natural.
The infamous.
I ain't looking tacky cause I keep my game tactful.
I'm so pretty, I'm so fat, boo. I'm so natural, it's like it's a taboo. I'm so filthy, got the tattoo stuck in these bitches like I own ragu. On my business with my platoon, getting these minutes like I'm a typhoon. Y'all this jersey on that cartoon and I'm sitting on top. Hey guys, and welcome back to Afros and Baby Hairs, and thank you for joining me in the reading room for book review number 17, which will be on The Power Family by David Weaver. This is a part of the Bankroll Squad series. So yeah, if you're interested in hearing details about this book as well as my thoughts and opinions, then please stay tuned. I am not and do not encourage this book or promote this book to anyone who is under the age of 18. If you are under the age of 18, then please get your parents' supervision and or consent before reading this book. Now that I've gotten that out of the way, let's get into this book review. So yeah guys, I'm going to start off by reading the back of the book, and it reads, Malcolm and Kyla Powers are the epitome of hood love. In the dictionary, their name and faces should appear beside the words loyalty and power. Instead, they are in the Philippines, on the run from the United States federal government and the international police, Interpol. If these agencies catch them, they will both face the death penalty for the crimes they committed while running the criminal enterprise known as the Bankroll Squad. Malcolm and Kyla have been a thorn in the side of the FBI for several years, evading capture and pulling off several spectacular escapes. Frustrated and embarrassed by their inability to bring the infamous couple to justice, the FBI enlists the help of numerous individuals, from snitches to international bounty hunter. What happens when the Power family meets two other powerful families in similar circumstances as them? Two families from different parts of the world with different beliefs and styles who are on the run and have been running for so long that it's second nature. Two other families with so much power that it's almost equivalent of 3 bankroll squads combined. Will the 3 power families team up and create a formidable union, the likes of which the world has never seen? Or will the 3 powerful dynasties clash and spontaneously combust? So yeah guys, now I want to tell you about the new characters that appear in this particular book. So yeah, we have Vitro, a leader of an Italian mob. You have Jarita, who is Vitro's African-American wife from Chicago. You have Franco Roberto, who's an international drug kingpin, and Martha, Franco's wife, who inherited a cocaine empire from her late father, and she owns the biggest coca plant fields in Colombia. We also have Agent Lou, who is an FBI agent claiming to be Pamela's husband, Pamela from the previous book. You also have Sandy, who appears to be Agent Lou's partner. And then this other name was just thrown out there. You will find out more about this character throughout this book review, and that is Milzy Liato. So this book starts off introducing us to Vitro, which is an Italian mafia leader who has fallen in love with an African-American girl from Chicago who thinks he's a stockbroker. He ended up marrying the girl, but his true business has landed him on the America's Most Wanted list, and has run him all the way to the Philippines to hide out. He has become nervous after going by Malcolm and Kyla's coffee shop and seeing it closed. He has a military or an army just in case something goes down, because U.S. laws and rules do not apply in the Philippines. His biggest dilemma is his wife, though. She is constantly questioning him about going back to the U.S. and asking him why does he have so many guns. His wife Jarita doesn't understand the sacrifices he made to be with her, nor all of the laws he has broken in the U.S. However, a news report came on one day and had both their faces displayed. The volume was cut down and she only saw the tail end of it, but now she has questions about that. Vitro is debating on whether he should tell her or not, and is hoping that they could be just like Kyla and Malcolm. He is also worth $100 million, but his wife thinks he's only worth $10 million. Franco and his wife Marta. They are Colombian and were supplying the bankroll squad for many years until the prison escape. Now Franco Roberto was losing money. He was also one of America's most wanted as well. Either way, Franco and his wife are in the Philippines on business, and even though Franco Roberto is a kingpin, Marta inherited the large coca plant fields and the organization from her father. Marta gave Franco the power that he has. Anyway, they are an older couple and have been together for many years, but they have no children even though they tried. However, Franco just got his wife's medical records from her doctor showing that Marta had been on birth control during her childbearing years and actually didn't want a child because she was selfish. However, she knew that her husband did, so she played games with him and made up for her inability to conceive with gifts and material things and power. Anyway, since finding out the news, Franco plans to kill her. So far, it seems like this is the reason for them being in the Philippines. Tara has run off with the baby girl that belongs to Malcolm and Kyla. Tara ran and ran, not knowing where she was or where to run. And the more she ran, the more dizzy she became and the more the baby cried. She ended up stopping where a crowd of people were buying and selling, different things. Then a lady approached her and asked her if she wanted her to hold the baby. Tara gave the strange lady the baby and took off running because she did not want to continue with the plan. Lena or Milan was nowhere to be found. Milan was actually still at the estate, being duct taped and tortured by Kyla. Malcolm was off looking for their daughter for a while, then he returned and was wondering why Kyla hadn't wiped Milan off the map yet. Anyway, Malcolm got Milan to give him some answers. As soon as she told him she was working with the FBI, he lit her up with a few bullets because he hated the FBI and he hated snitches. Also, he ended up telling Kyla he had been working on building his power and trying to get an army. He is supposed to be meeting with someone that can help him out, and he will in return help the guy out. However, he never mentioned these things to Kyla or the rest of the bankroll squad. In the meantime, Franco had locked himself in the hotel bathroom looking over his wife's medical report one last time before he flushed it down the toilet. He slid off his wedding ring and had made up in his mind that he was going to put his wife in a body bed. When he heard his wife coming into the hotel room, he barged out of the bathroom with his gun aimed at her, but was thrown off by the gift his wife had brought for him. A baby girl she had gotten from a young couple trying to sell her for drugs. Now, this is what the wife said. Marta knew that Franco had gotten her medical records because her doctor called her and told her. So she knew she had to do something to stop Franco from killing her. However, Franco had a connection with the baby. For some reason, the baby seemed familiar to him. Either way, he named the baby girl, Baby Luis, after his late mother. Agent Lou was venting to Sandy about how he wanted to go and arrest Malcolm and Kyla, but his boss wouldn't allow him to do so just yet. So he was pissed that for one, he had come all the way to the Philippines to get the bankroll squad, and for two, because his wife had been killed. Sandy was basically trying to talk some sense into Agent Lou, reminding him that the Philippines requested the U.S. to not create bad press. He also reminded Lou that Pam was not his wife, but just a friend who had fell in love with Malcolm, and that she did not get killed, but killed herself helping Malcolm. Either way, Agent Lou wanted to go against his boss's orders because Milan had messed everything up by telling the powers that she was working for the FBI and the fact that she didn't know where the baby was. So Agent Lou wanted to get his men to go take down Malcolm against the boss's orders, but he needed Sandy to be in agreement and not snitch on him. But before Sandy could say anything, another agent busted in and told them that they had Tara, but she had stolen 3 folders and ran. One of the folders contained info about the bankroll squad, and the other 2 were on 2 other families and contained information so top secret that it would get every agent on that island killed. They did not come to the island prepared for a war, so he suggested that they go back to the States, regroup, then come back to the Philippines in a few days. But Agent Lou was adamant about sticking to his original plan. and both the other two agents knew there was no talking him out of it. Top secret info or not, they were about to go rogue, and there was nothing they could do about it. Tyra ended up running back towards the Powers estate to find Lena and to show her the documents she had stolen. Her plan was to sell the information so that they could save Milan as well as never have to work again. Anyway, Tyra ended up falling. The papers from the envelope blew everywhere and she scrambled to collect them. Soon she heard footsteps approaching and then realized it was Lena. They had found each other and decided to read and organize the documents. They put together a plan of how they were going to be paid for this information. Later, Lena asked Tyra where was the baby, and Tyra ended up looking through the documents to find the picture of the lady she had given the baby to. And of course, it was Franco Roberto's wife, Marta. Malcolm left to go handle some business about finding his daughter. On the highway, as he was rolling, SUVs were following him until they had blocked him in. Finally, the people in the SUV that was blocking him from the front got out with guns drawn, and one was holding handcuffs. Malcolm had his gun aimed at them as well. Anyway, the entire entourage got shot up before they could get to Malcolm. He assumed it was Kyla, but it turned out to be his best friend, Catfish. He had gotten a full diagram of the entire plan from an independent contractor, so he set up on top of the roof with his rifles and waited. Turns out the diagram was accurate. Anyway, Catfish ended up marrying Treasure and they moved to another country. They just came back to the Philippines to pick up his money, but since they were there, they had heard rumors of Majala being kidnapped, so he tried to talk Malcolm back into reestablishing the bankroll squad, but Malcolm was against it. They ended up going their separate ways. Marta was actually behind the SUVs following Malcolm. They were a team of shooters she had put together to take Malcolm out once she found out that the baby she had taken belonged to him and Kyla. She knew that if her husband found out, he would definitely kill her. Malcolm was also meeting with her husband that very afternoon. Anyway, she ended up calling her Colombian friend so that they could get some professionals on the island, being that Catfish had took out all of her shooters single-handedly. Jarita, Vitro's wife, had questions as to why her face was on the news. She called home to get answers from her family members, but none of them answered her calls. Then she realized that she had spoken to her family at all since being in the Philippines. Everything seemed to be flaky to her. Something wasn't right, and she needed answers. Soon she heard a knock at the door. When she opened it, there stood Lena and Tyra. They initially asked for Vitro, of course. He wasn't there, but before Jarita slammed the door in their faces, they ended up reading a portion of what was on the documents, which was some info tying her to a couple of murders because her fingerprints were on the weapons that was used. Jarita demanded a folder from the girls, and they basically told her she would have to pay $200,000 for it. Jarita stated that there was too much money and slammed the door in their faces, leaving them standing there looking dumbfounded. However, she came back to the door with a bag full of money and retrieved the folder. Treasure went to visit Kyla and was thanking her for setting her and Catfish up. They talked about their lives as ride-or-die women for the men that they loved, as well as the mission Catfish was on to look out for Malcolm. Treasure didn't know all the details of the mission, but she had just got a call from Catfish to let her know that everything had worked out. Kyla didn't know what was going on, but she was hoping that the mission was to find her baby. However, that was not the case. Among the women talking, there was a knock at the door. Both ladies grabbed their guns. When Kyla looked out the peephole, there was a teenage native girl there. She opened the door and asked the girl what she wanted, and the girl began telling her about the info in the folder and had quite an attitude. So much of an attitude that Kyla ended up putting a bullet in the girl's head and taking the folder, especially after the girl was talking reckless about the baby. Anyway, Catfish ended up coming by to pick up Treasure, and he briefly told Kyla that Malcolm didn't need their services and that they needed to grow up. Kyla knew that it was all her fault that Malcolm had said these things because she constantly would preach to him and tried to convince him to leave their lifestyle behind them. Kyla closed her eyes to think of a way to tell Catfish that they really did need them, but by the time she opened her eyes, Catfish and Treasure were gone. Lena and Tara had paid the native girl $5,000 to take the folder to the Powers estate for profit. They watched the whole scene play out from a distance. So they saw the girl be killed and the door slammed on her within minutes. Tara started to have doubts about the whole situation and was tired and ready to take the money they had and just leave. But Lena, on the other hand, was planning to break in and get Milan, her mommy, as well as sell the last folder to the last family. Tara didn't understand why Lena was acting like Milan was the one putting in all this work when it was Tara who had ran with the baby, Tara who had stolen the documents, Tara who was helping Lena every step of the way, and Milan, her mommy, was nowhere to be found. Malcolm and Vitro went to meet with Franco. He offered them both shares in his new diamond venture. However, Malcolm was only thinking of his daughter, so he was agitated and impatient during the meeting. Finally, when Franco asked him what was wrong and Malcolm told him about Majila, their daughter, that's when Franco realized that his wife had kidnapped Malcolm's daughter, and Malcolm was a friend to him, and he also had respect for him. So he had even more reason to kill his wife, Marcha, because she could have at least told him the truth about where she got the child. Either way, Franco was unwilling to help Malcolm because he had grown attached to Majila, and now they shared a bond. Malcolm realized in that moment that Franco has some character flaws because he needed him from his familia during these times, and Franco did not seem concerned. Vitro had gotten just as mad as Malcolm and was ready to turn the island red just to help Malcolm find his daughter, while Franco just stood there trying to sell his new diamond venture to his own shadow. Marcha was sitting on the rooftop with her rifle and binoculars spying on her husband during his meeting with Malcolm and Vitro. After a few moments, she realized that Franco knew about the baby. She decided then and there she would do anything for her faithful and loyal husband to keep that baby, even if it cost her her very own life. Jarita opened the folder and learned that her husband was the head of an Italian mafia. She learned about the murders, the heists, the kidnappings, car bombings. She also discovered that her fingerprints were on a murder weapon at 2 different residences. She found out that Vitro had her phone configured to only make and receive calls from him, which explained why she hadn't been getting any calls from her family in Chicago, nor had she been able to contact them. She saw pictures of 2 women in the folder, one being Kyla of the Bankroll Squad. Under her picture read that Vitro was obsessed with her and married Jarita to duplicate Kyla. The next picture was of an Italian woman named Milzy Liotto. Under her picture it said that she was Vitro's mistress and the mother of his 2 children. Jarita almost lost it after seeing that because she trusted Vitro and now she knew he had hurt her. He had tricked her and made her look like a fool. Tara and Lena had got a hotel room for the night. They were a bit jumpy and Tara was thinking of leaving the island and was trying to figure out a way to convince Lena. But before Tara could say anything, Lena burst out and said she wasn't going anywhere without her mommy. Then Tara mumbled under her breath that wasn't her mom. Next thing you know, Lena was on top of her with her gun out, slobbering and looking deranged. Tara was confused, but she talked Lena off of her by reminding her that they were sisters and that she loved her. Lena eased off of her and began to cry. So did Tara. They ended up deciding on selling the folder to Matra in exchange for the baby, then going back to the Powers estate to get Milan. Tara wasn't really feeling it though, because she knew about the federal agents all over the island and about Interpol coming to arrest them all. She didn't want any part of that, nor did she want to get killed on this island. I read the contents of the folder she got from the native girl. Everything in the folder was true, and she realized that the FBI and CIA had done their research. However, there was a secret that Malcolm had been keeping from Kyla, and she didn't know why. She cried and cried about the secret he had been keeping from her. She wanted to call him, but he had scolded her for calling 20 times within the last hour. But she couldn't help it and called him again. This time he answered, and Kyla told him that she loved him, and this time when she said it, he felt it so strongly, and it was so different. She pretty much told Malcolm she wanted to be with him and that he didn't need anyone but her to help find their daughter. He then told her he wanted her to stay put because he didn't want anything to happen to her too, and that he already felt like a failure for what happened to Majala. Kyla told him she didn't want to spend a second without him, and she didn't care. She also told him she knew about his secret, and it made her cry so hard again. She told him he could have told her because it doesn't make her love change for him. Malcolm knew right then and there that Kyla would forever be by his side, so he agreed to meet with her in 3 hours. The secret Malcolm was keeping is that he was dying from cancer and only had 1 year left to live. Come with Majala in his arms, and he thought about the entire situation and still had a connection with Majala, who had just fell asleep in his arms. He laid her down and covered her up, and then went and poured himself a drink and thought about his dilemmas. For one, he had put all of his money into the diamond venture and still didn't have any partners to assist him with the venture. Soon his wife showed up, and her hand was wrapped around her gun. However, Franco ended up asking her why didn't she tell him that she had stolen Malcolm and Kyla's baby. She responded with an attitude saying that the baby was given to her. She also asked Franco how did the meeting go, and he told her that the men had not agreed to do business with him. Then Martra suggested that they take the fortune that they have now and the baby and go live somewhere peacefully and leave all of this behind. Franco wasn't ready to hear that because he had took all of their money and put it on this diamond venture. So he responded with the idea of going to speak with Kyla, the most loyal woman he knows, and had done a lot of business with her over the years. He hurt Martra with this statement. Anyway, Franco left to go to the Powers estate. He thought about how he could have told Malcolm what was going on with his daughter and how he only played a small role. He also knew that Majala wasn't his biological and that he could find a young woman to create a child with after he got rid of Matra. Kyla went to the garage to choose which car she wanted to use to go meet Malcolm. She noticed there was a rubber band laying on the garage floor. Anyway, she opted for the Ferrari because it was fast, so she used her remote to start the engine. Then the car blew up. Moments later, another car blew up. And as she was trying to get away from the debris, 3 white men approached her, stating that they were from the FBI, Interpol, and the last one was from the CIA. They told her that the president wanted either Kyla or Malcolm to turn themselves in and be held accountable for the crimes of the bankroll squad. They also told Kyla that other crime families wanted to kill them as well out of jealousy. She was willing to go at first because she wanted Majala to be with Malcolm to help him heal. But when she realized the men didn't have any badges or paperwork, she pulled her guns on them, made them give her their car keys, and then made them jump in the pool. She ended up leaving in the car they drove there because she didn't want to take any chances with any of her other cars. Vitro pulled a gun on Malcolm because he was in love with Kyla and wanted to get Malcolm out of the picture. Vitro had taken a picture of Malcolm hugging a lady one day on the beach and had sold the picture to the local newspaper to indicate that Malcolm was cheating. He told Malcolm he had come to the coffee shop every day to see Kyla and he wanted to shoot Malcolm in the heart. So he did. He shot him 4 times in the chest area, then pushed him out of the car. Then he sped off to go meet Kyla at the place that Malcolm had told her to meet him. Tara and Lena decided that Lena was going to do all the talking when they made it to Martra's hotel. Tara's job was to watch Lena's back so that nothing happened like the incident at the Powers estate. The plan was to sell the folder to Martra for $100,000 or just exchange it for the baby. Martra wanted to know what was so important in the folder, so Lena read the information about Franco using all of their money to buy diamonds. Martra had heard about this through one of her men and had him killed for saying such a thing, and now she was hearing about it again. She asked Lena for the source of the information, and Lena read from the documents that this came straight from the CIA. So Martra ended up asking Lena what she wanted, and Lena told her $100K or the baby. Martra wanted to know why she wanted the baby, and Lena explained what happened. So Martra knew now for sure she didn't have the money, and she definitely didn't care about Franco anymore since he had just thrown away their entire fortune. So she went and grabbed the baby and some of her things, but when she came back, Lena had her gun aimed and was once again acting animalistic and deranged. Martra handed her the baby and Lena left. Franco was being driven to Kyla's estate. However, the driver was driving erratic and ended up stopping on the side of the road. He was fumbling and looking under the seat, so of course Franco thought the driver was going to kill him. But the man was actually looking for his cigarettes. Either way, the driver told Franco that Martra had sent him a text to kill Franco. But the driver didn't want to do that. He felt like Franco was family. And then Franco asked him why was he going against Martra's orders when she is the one who picked him up off the street and gave him a job when he had nothing. The driver was confused as to why Franco was giving him reasons to kill him. Franco's response was that they weren't reasons for the driver to kill him, but reasons why Franco was going to kill the driver because of disloyalty. Franco ended up shooting the driver and still headed towards Kyla's estate. He wanted to tell her where the baby was, and then he was leaving the island and Martra for good. Kyla ended up meeting Jarita. She was headed down the expressway ready to go meet Malcolm, and she saw a black girl dressed in all Louis Vuitton walking down the side of the road. She wouldn't have stopped until she noticed the girl was holding a folder just like the one Kyla had at home. So she pulled over and started trying to get the girl's attention. The girl finally turned around, and that's when Kyla noticed how much they resembled each other. Jarita knew who Kyla was from the pictures inside the folder. Anyway, as they were standing there talking, a Nissan was slowing down. Next thing you know, someone had called out Jarita's name and began shooting. Kyla shot back from the ground. Then she saw the car rolling into a ditch. She got up to check on Jarita, who fortunately had not been shot. The ladies talked a little more and then decided that it would be better for them to get going. Kyla still had to get to Malcolm and still had to find her child. But as soon as Kyla made it to the car, the person who was in the Nissan began to shoot again at Kyla. Jarita was already inside the car on the floor praying. The ending of this book is good, so you all will have to read the book to find out what happens after that. But I do want to tell you, this is where things start to get a little wild and bizarre. So please cop the book so you can find out what the ending is. Anyway, now for my thoughts and opinions. First of all, the levels of deceit and disloyalty in this book topped all the other books. You know, Vitro lied to his wife like he was a stockbroker, secretly being in love with Kyla, and then trying to kill his friend Malcolm, also having a mistress with 2 children. Then Martra fooling Franco like she couldn't have children, trying to have her husband killed, and Franco taking all of his family's money and putting it on a diamond venture that he didn't know if it would work or not, and keeping it from his wife. And then Malcolm keeping this cancer secret from Kyla. It was a lot of secrets and disloyalty. And anyway, the next thing is, what in the flaming hot Cheeto is wrong with Lena? We should have known from the lipstick click that this girl was short a couple marbles, but in this book she lost every brain cell she had left. And the reason why I said that we should have known, because she was 13 years old with a cartoon nightgown on when they found her. And then, like I was saying before, how did this girl get so influenced in 24 hours? She turned into a little Milan. Like, what's really wrong with her? But anyway, y'all gotta continue to read this book to find out what happened, because she went way off on the deep end. We want to say this book was very edge of the seat-ish. All these cartels with their power, money, and secrets had me trying to see what was going to happen next. Kyla still represented, even though Malcolm made her stay put majority of the book. But this by far was my favorite out of the entire Bankroll Squad series. So without giving too much away and encouraging you all to get your hands on this book to see what else happens, there are a few more interesting things that went on. Hey, leave your comments down below letting us know what you thought about this series. If you have any suggestions or ideas, let us know that as well. Our next book will be on the daughter of Black Ice, going back to that Black Ice series of Child of a Crackhead. But yeah, The Daughter of Black Ice by Shameek A Spieght. I want to thank you once again for joining me in the reading room. I really appreciate your time and energy. I hope to see you guys on the next one. Peace and love. And as always,
DJ Mike C on the track.
Cause that be natural. Lady ain't looking tacky. I keep my game tactful.
Yo,
yeah, I'm so nappy. Cause that be natural.
The infamous.
Ain't looking tacky. Cause I keep my game tactful.
I'm so pretty, I'm so faboo, I'm so nappy. It's like it's a taboo. I'm so filthy, got the